So, um, I want you to just picture this scenario for a second. You are walking into a doctor's office.
Right. We all know that exact vibe.
Yeah, exactly. You know the environment. It's that crinkly paper on the examination table that makes a loud sound every single time you shift your weight.
Oh, yeah. And the smell.
Yes, that faint, undeniable smell of rubbing, alcohol, and like sterile wipes. And
Mm.
you've got the slight and too bright fluorescent lights just kind of humming above you.
It's universally uncomfortable.
It really is.
Yeah.
So you're sitting there and you're describing a medical issue to your doctor, a real tangible struggle that has been, heavily impacting your daily life.
Mm-hmm.
The doctor sits across from you. They're taking notes, looking over your charts. And then they reach for their prescription pad.
The classic moment of truth.
Right. And you fully expect them to write down the name of some chemical compound, right? Some complex pharmaceutical formula you have to take to the pharmacy to get filled in one of those little orange bottles.
That's the baseline expectation of modern medicine, yeah.
Exactly. But instead, the doctor looks up, slides a piece of paper across the desk, and I'm completely serious here, hands you a video game.
It's wild to even hear you say it out loud. It completely shatters the entire mental model we've built over, honestly, centuries regarding what a medical intervention is supposed to look like.
Yeah, it sounds like science fiction, but it isn't. According to a recent report we're looking at today from MBS News, this exact scenario is currently playing out.
And it's not a drill, it's actual clinical practice.
Right, so our mission today for this deep dive is to unpack this. There's a new treatment app, it's called ENDEAVORRIDE, and it has just officially started being prescribed at medical institutions in Japan.
Which is a massive paradigm shift. We are conditioned to view medicine as a biological or chemical agent, right? Something introduced into the body to alter a physiological state.
A pill, a shot, a liquid.
Exactly. So handing over a piece of software as a clinical treatment, it totally subverts our expectations of healthcare.
It does.
Yeah.
And we should clarify, this is specifically being deployed as a treatment for ADHD in children, targeting the inability to maintain concentration.
That's the key. The threshold has officially been crossed here. Digital entertainment has formally entered the realm of official, heavily regulated medicine.
And I want to hover on that word prescribed for a second, because I feel like people hear health app and they think of, well, the app store.
Oh, absolutely. The word prescribed carries immense weight here. We are moving far beyond the wellness apps you might just download to track your sleep or, remind you to drink water.
Like the rings on my smartwatch telling me to stand up.
Right, exactly. Those are supplementary tools. They're consumer tech. ENDEAVORRIDE is a clinical tool. It is dispensed by medical professionals, and it's fully integrated into a patient's formal healthcare plan.
So the doctor is actively monitoring this as part of a treatment protocol.
Exactly. It prompts a total reevaluation of our definitions. Like you said, medicine traditionally is something you ingest or inject or apply topically. Now we're having to consider that medicine can be something you actively interact with on a screen.
Which is fascinating. So let's examine the target demographic here to kind of set the stage. The report specifies this is for children with ADHD.
Right. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder.
Yeah. And for anyone familiar with the condition, or if you have a child with ADHD, you know the core struggles involve executive dysfunction. It's this daily, grueling battle with sustaining focus on tasks that lack immediate inherent rewards.
It's exhausting for them. It involves a constant struggle to filter out ambient distractions and regulate impulsive behaviors.
And I think looking closely at the neurology of ADHD really provides the necessary context here, like what's actually happening in the brain.
Well, we're essentially looking at a brain where the dopamine system operates quite differently. Dopamine is the neurotransmitter framework responsible for reward, motivation, and attention.
So it's not just a behavior issue, it's chemical.
Exactly. A child with ADHD isn't intentionally ignoring a teacher or, failing to do their homework out of malice or laziness. Their prefrontal cortex, the area that governs executive function, is basically understimulated.
Understimulated, okay.
Yeah.
So how does that play out in real time?
Their attention gets easily hijacked by whatever is most novel or stimulating in their environment. And that's because their brain is constantly hunting for that dopamine release that neurotypical brains just generate more easily during mundane tasks.
So a neurotypical brain gets enough dopamine to just sit through a boring math worksheet.
Right, but an ADHD brain is starving for it, so it jumps to the bird outside the window or the tapping pencil or the urge to just get up and run.
Which introduces a rather glaring paradox into this whole discussion, doesn't
Ooh,
it?
the screen time paradox. I know exactly where you're going.
Yes. If we're talking about a child whose attention is easily hijacked, I mean, the most common culprit in the modern home is the screen.
Oh, 100%.
The conventional wisdom, like the battle fought in living rooms everywhere, is that screens are the ultimate enemy of focus. Parents are constantly advised by pediatricians to limit video games, to restrict tablets, to take the phones away to help a child concentrate.
We are constantly told screen time fragments a child's attention span.
Right. Yet here is ENDEAVORRIDE, using the screen as the literal therapeutic tool. We are supposedly treating the attention issue with the very medium that is widely blamed for causing or exacerbating it.
It seems completely contradictory on the surface.
It really does. I mean, are we just trading one problem for another?
Yeah.
By handing a child a highly stimulating video game, aren't we just treating a symptom while potentially deepening a dependency on screens?
That is genuinely the most critical question to ask right now, and to answer it, it requires us to separate the medium of the screen from the actual architecture of the software running on it.
Okay, separate the screen from the software. Walk me through that.
Well, the concern about screen dependency is incredibly valid, but it stems from how commercial games and social media are fundamentally designed.
You mean like the algorithms?
Exactly. Apps like TikTok or, say, commercial mobile games, they utilize what's called variable ratio reward schedules. They are specifically engineered to deliver unpredictable bursts of dopamine to create a compulsive loop.
Like a slot machine.
Exactly like a slot machine. They want to keep the user passively engaged for as long as humanly possible to serve ads or sell microtransactions. ENDEAVORRIDE employs a completely different architectural philosophy.
So it's not trying to keep it hooked forever.
No, not at all. It's not designed to foster endless scrolling or endless play sessions. The stimulation it provides is highly structured, it's time-bound, and it's specifically engineered to demand active cognitive labor, not passive consumption.
Active cognitive labor. Okay, so we're distinguishing between passive dopamine loops where you just zone out and scroll and active cognitive loads where your brain is working hard.
Precisely. And let's look at the reality of how a child actually experiences treatment. Traditional interventions, whether it's behavioral therapy sessions or, remembering to take a daily stimulant medication, they often involve a high degree of friction.
Friction, meaning they feel like chores.
Exactly. They feel punitive. They can make a child feel alienated or broken compared to their peers. And that friction is a massive barrier to efficacy. Compliance is actually a huge issue in pediatric medicine.
Oh, I'm sure. Getting a kid to do anything they don't want to do is tough, let alone a medical regimen.
Right. If a treatment feels like a punishment, a child will resist it. So, by utilizing a video game, this intervention meets the child in an environment where they already feel perfectly comfortable and, importantly, competent.
The medium is inherently frictionless for this specific demographic.
It is. It leverages the child's natural inclination toward play to deliver the therapeutic intervention. The game provides the immediate, continuous feedback the ADHD brain requires to stay engaged.
But it channels that engagement into a specific structural framework.
Exactly. A framework designed to actually train the prefrontal cortex rather than just providing empty junk food entertainment.
That makes a lot of sense. And, the MBS News report notes this is a domestic first for Japan, which, knowing the reputation of the Japanese medical system, is wild.
They are notoriously conservative and extremely rigorous regarding safety and efficacy.
Right. So for them to approve a digital game as a prescribed treatment for pediatric attention disorders, that's a profound institutional shift. They're literally recognizing digital code as a valid therapeutic mechanism.
It's a huge milestone.
But that brings us to the mechanics, right? Because we know the who it's for and the what it is, but the crucial missing piece here is the how. Like, how does interacting with a game actually treat a neurological condition?
And the neuroscience of the game design is where the true innovation lies here. The source provides a pretty concise description of the core gameplay loop.
Yeah, it says the player must move a vehicle while simultaneously tapping specified characters to collect them.
Right, so driving and tapping.
I spent some time really trying to visualize this, trying to map the cognitive demands it's asking for. And the closest analogy I can draw is the classic challenge of rubbing your stomach while patting your head.
Oh, that's a brilliant comparison.
Because, you start out fine for the first 2 seconds, but almost immediately, your brain attempts to synchronize the two distinct physical motions into one unified, easier pattern.
Right, your hands naturally want to do the exact same thing to save cognitive energy.
Exactly. Keeping the two actions separate requires intense, conscious cognitive effort. It feels like ENDEAVORRIDE is utilizing a digital version of that exact friction.
It absolutely is.
It's forcing the brain to split its resources and manage two entirely different types of continuous competing input.
That analogy perfectly illustrates the concept of dual tasking, which is really the foundational science behind this entire therapy.
Dual tasking. Okay, break that down for me.
So, the mechanics described, moving the vehicle and tapping the characters, they activate two completely distinct cognitive pathways that are essentially forced to operate in parallel. Let's isolate the first pathway, moving the vehicle.
Okay, the driving part.
Right. This requires sustained attention. It acts as a continuous baseline demand on the brain. Think of driving your car on a highway. You must constantly manage your lane position and your speed.
Right, it's a low-level but unbroken vigilance. You can't just stop paying attention.
Exactly. If your attention drifts for even a fraction of a second, the vehicle deviates from its path.
And for a child with ADHD, simply maintaining that unbroken baseline vigilance without their mind wandering off is an incredibly taxing exercise on its own.
It's exhausting for them. The game is forcing them to flex that sustained attention muscle just to keep the vehicle in forward motion.
So that's the baseline. What about the tapping?
Right, then we introduce the interference. Layered on top of that baseline demand is the second task, tapping the characters. And this requires reactive, selective attention.
Okay, reactive.
While the brain is dedicating resources to the continuous movement of the vehicle, it must simultaneously scan the environment, identify a suddenly appearing target, and execute a motor response.
It's an abrupt, high-priority cognitive demand designed specifically to interrupt the baseline task.
Yes, but, and this is crucial, the text in the report includes a modifier that completely changes the nature of the second task.
Oh, right. It doesn't just say tapping characters. It says tapping specified character.
Exactly. That single word shifts the entire dynamic of the treatment.
It really does. Why is that so important neurologically?
Well, it's the defining feature of the intervention. If the instruction were simply to tap anything that appears on the screen, the task would rely solely on raw reaction time.
Like whack-a-mole. The player would just smash the screen whenever a pixel moved.
Right. But the word specified introduces a complex rule set. It means there are target characters the player must tap, and there are distractor characters the player must actively ignore.
Ah, okay. This is targeting inhibitory control.
Exactly. Think about the sequence. The player is managing the vehicle, a character suddenly pops onto the screen, and the immediate impulsive reaction, the literal reaction in ADHD brain is practically wired to execute instantly, is to tap it.
Because it's novel, it's bright, it's stimulating.
Yes, but the brain must intervene. In a fraction of a second, it has to evaluate the stimulus against the rule set. Is this the specified character? No. Therefore, I must suppress my physical impulse to tap.
Wow. So they are actively fighting their own impulse while still trying to steer the car.
You are describing the precise function of the anterior cingulate cortex and the prefrontal cortex. These are the specific areas of the brain responsible for filtering out distractions and exercising inhibitory control.
And these are the exact cognitive functions that are underdeveloped or underactive in children with ADHD.
Precisely. They are bombarded by stimuli in the real world constantly, and their brains deeply struggle to prioritize one input while ignoring another.
So by forcing the player to manage the continuous task of driving, while simultaneously evaluating and inhibiting the impulse to tap non-specified targets, ENDEAVORRIDE is basically applying targeted, repetitive stress to these specific neural pathways.
It is essentially resistance training for the brain.
I love that, like going to the gym.
Exactly. When you lift weights, you isolate specific muscle groups, you apply stress, and you cause micro tears that force the muscle to rebuild stronger.
Right. So here, the game is isolating the neural pathways responsible for executive function and impulse control, and it's applying intense cognitive stress.
And through the principles of neuroplasticity, which is the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections throughout life, this repetitive, targeted stress theoretically strengthens those pathways over time.
That is fascinating. It's not just a distraction, it's a workout.
And because the reps of this workout are disguised as a video game, the patient is willing to perform the grueling cognitive labor.
Right, because if a clinician just asked a kid to sit in a chair and perform 20 minutes of raw impulse control exercises in a sterile office.
They'd face immediate massive resistance. It would be a nightmare for the child, the parents, and the doctor.
But by asking them to navigate a cool sci-fi vehicle and only capture specific targets, the child is fully immersed in the therapeutic process. They are willingly enduring the cognitive strain.
It solves the compliance issue beautifully.
It does. The mechanical design makes perfect sense. But it leads us into the complexities of the medical industry itself.
Oh, yeah. The business side of this is just as revolutionary as the medical side.
Because the MBS News report reveals that the entity actually selling ENDEAVORRIDE is Shionogi Co. And for those who don't know, Shionogi is a historic, deeply traditional Japanese pharmaceutical corporation.
They are as traditional as it gets.
Right. They specialize in infectious disease treatments, pain management, literally synthesizing chemical compounds in laboratories. So the obvious question here is, why is a traditional drug manufacturer distributing a software application?
It's a great question.
If this is a digital product, why isn't a major tech developer, like a Nintendo or a specialized Silicon Valley app startup, handling the release?
The presence of Shionogi and Company here really illuminates the severe friction between the technology sector and the medical establishment.
Two very different worlds.
Completely different languages. Developing a video game requires brilliant software engineers, artists, and UI designers. But taking a product to market as a legally prescribed medical treatment, that requires navigating an entirely different, highly guarded ecosystem.
I'd imagine the tech industries move fast and break things. Motto doesn't fly in medicine.
Exactly. The tech industry operates on metrics of user engagement, rapid iteration, A/B testing, and app store algorithms. The medical industry operates on clinical endpoints, adverse event reporting, double-blind trials, and extreme, unforgiving regulatory compliance.
So a tech startup might know exactly how to build the game, but they totally lack the institutional infrastructure to navigate the regulatory bodies.
Right. In Japan, that's the Pharmaceuticals and Medical Devices Agency, the PMDA. A tech startup just doesn't speak the language of clinical validation required by the PMDA.
So Shionogi acts as the necessary institutional bridge.
Precisely. They possess the regulatory expertise, the army of lawyers, the legal frameworks, and most importantly, the established trust of the medical community.
Ah, trust. That's huge. Because if I'm a doctor and some random app company emails me saying, prescribe our game, I'm deleting that email.
Exactly. But when a physician sees a new intervention distributed by a pharmaceutical company they have trusted for decades, a company that delivers safe chemical medications they prescribe every day, the barrier to clinical adoption is significantly lowered.
It signals to the doctors that this software has been subjected to the exact same rigorous scrutiny as a new heart medication or antibiotic.
It legitimizes it. Shionogi's involvement is the actual mechanism that transforms digital code from a neat consumer product into a validated therapeutic compound.
Which brings up the concept of treating code like a chemical compound. And that leads to probably the most complicated aspect of this entire process: the clinical trials.
The trial design for this is mind-bending.
It really is. The report specifically highlights the phrase insurance coverage, or hokentekyo, noting that prescriptions began on the 5th. And achieving national health insurance coverage in Japan is notoriously difficult, right?
Oh, it is incredibly strict. The government does not subsidize treatments with taxpayer money unless there is undeniable, peer-reviewed, rock-solid proof of efficacy.
So to achieve that level of coverage, the product had to survive a gauntlet of clinical trials. But running a clinical trial on a piece of software presents some really fascinating methodological challenges.
It breaks the traditional model. Let's think about a normal drug trial. In a traditional trial, you give the active chemical compound to one group and an identical-looking sugar pill to the control group.
Right. And neither the patient nor the administering doctor knows who received what. The double-blind structure.
Exactly. And that structure isolates the actual chemical effect of the drug from the placebo effect. The power of belief.
But how on earth do you create a placebo for a video game?
Right. You can't just give someone a sugar app.
I mean, if you give the control group a completely different game, like, say, they play a simple puzzle game, you aren't testing the specific mechanics of ENDEAVORRIDE. You're just testing ENDEAVORRIDE against a puzzle game.
Which proves nothing about the dual tasking mechanic.
Right, and if you give them nothing, the placebo effect is completely ruined, because the control group is fully aware they aren't receiving any treatment.
This is the massive hurdle that digital therapeutics have had to clear to gain legitimacy. To validate ENDEAVORRIDE, researchers actually had to design what's called a sham control app.
A sham control. Okay, how does that work?
They build a version of the game that looks visually identical. I mean, identical. It features the exact same art style, the same characters, the same music, the same general interface.
Okay, so the kid thinks they're playing the real game.
Exactly. However, the sham version removes the specific therapeutic mechanic.
Wow, so they strip out the active ingredient, essentially.
Precisely. They remove the dual tasking and the required inhibitory control. The control group plays a game that looks exactly like ENDEAVORRIDE, but perhaps they only drive the vehicle without any targets appearing. Or maybe they only tap characters without the specified rule set, so they're just tapping everything.
Meaning there's no need for impulse inhibition, they're just playing a basic reaction game.
Right. The clinical trial then measures whether the group playing the full dual-tasking version demonstrates a statistically significant improvement in real-world ADHD symptoms compared to the group playing the sham version.
That is incredibly clever. So they are literally isolating the specific line of code that requires impulse control and testing that one line against the placebo version of the game.
Yes, and achieving insurance coverage means the data from those trials was submitted to the government, it was heavily scrutinized by highly skeptical medical boards, and it was deemed undeniable.
So the data proved that the specific algorithmic arrangement of the dual tasking mechanic produced measurable clinical improvements in sustained concentration that the sham version did not.
Exactly. The National Health System looked at a video game, looked at the data, and officially classified it as medicine, agreeing to pay for it with public funds.
The societal validation of that is staggering to me.
It's a complete 180 from where we were 10 years ago.
I mean, for years, the medical establishment has done nothing but warn parents about the neurological dangers of excessive screen time. And now, that exact same establishment is formally validating a highly specific, clinically engineered form of screen time as a legitimate treatment protocol.
They are recognizing the screen not as a passive danger, but as an active delivery system for neurological therapy.
It fundamentally forces us to reconsider the boundaries of the pharmaceutical industry entirely. We are officially leaving the era where medical intervention was exclusively the domain of chemistry and biology.
It's the dawn of digital pharmacology.
That's exactly what it is. The integration of software as a prescribed, insurance-backed treatment for a neurodevelopmental disorder like ADHD, it suggests that the precise arrangement of pixels and interactive mechanics can alter the physical function of the human brain with enough reliability to warrant a doctor's signature.
And that means we are looking at a future healthcare model that is potentially much less invasive, highly personalized, and capable of integrating seamlessly into the digital environments we already inhabit every day.
The friction of treatment is literally being engineered out of the equation.
It makes you wonder where this goes next.
Oh, absolutely. Which brings me to the thought I want to leave you, our listener, with today. Because this doesn't stop at ADHD.
Not at all. This is just the proof of concept.
Right. So if an insurance-covered, pharma-backed video game has been clinically proven to treat the inability to maintain concentration, the trajectory of this technology raises some really incredible questions.
It really opens Pandora's box in the best way possible.
Think about it. What other cognitive or emotional states might eventually be treated through digital prescriptions?
Could we see a specific gameplay loop designed to build neural pathways that combat severe anxiety?
Exactly. Or could a targeted virtual reality environment be prescribed to slow the progression of memory loss in dementia patients?
What about training empathy in certain behavioral disorders?
Yes. As the architecture of digital environments becomes increasingly sophisticated, the line separating our digital entertainment from our digital medicine is going to become completely indistinguishable.
It's a fascinating and slightly terrifying frontier.
It is. So as you go about your day, consider the underlying architecture of the apps you interact with right now and ask yourself, what subtle behaviors might they already be programming into you?